After almost 2 centuries of their spirituality being corrupted, distorted, and tainted, enlightened Sikhs began to implore their community to awaken from the slumber of their hijacked status. These enlightened Sikhs worked to put an end to the corruption and deviation that had been imposed onto Sikhi by the hijacker groups. They called for the freeing of our Gurdwaras from the shackles of the hijackers. They rallied for Sikhs to examine their corrupted literature that had been meticulously piled upon the Sikh psyche by the hijacker groups. They called for Sikhs to shed the Stockholm syndrome that had set into our psyche and revert to authentic Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji based Sikhi that was given to us by Guru Nanak and his 9 successor Gurus. In short, they called for massive reforms and an overhaul of the hijacked system that was labeled Sikhi but had become Brahmanism in Sikhi garb. Resistance by the hijacker groups against such reform was anticipated. Opposition from the Dera, Taksali, and clergy groups was predictable. This resistance was well organized, well coordinated, and massive. The nature of the resistance was a clear indication of the depth to which 2 centuries of hijacker influence had become ingrained within Sikhs. Hijacked Sikhi had become the blood that flowed in the veins of most Sikhs. The outcome has thus been in the form of an intense, disturbing, and disruptive battle that still continues till date and is expected to take up much of the Sikh community's energy and resources into the 21st century. Today's video provides a narrative of the pioneer Sikhs who dedicated their lives towards bringing about an awakening within Sikhi. It narrates the challenges they faced within a community that was not just unaware, unconcerned, and oblivious to the fact that they were hostages, but one that was hostile to being liberated from their hijackers. Gurmukh Singh, a professor at Oriental College, Lahore, can be considered the forerunner of the awakening. He founded the reform-oriented Singh Sabha movement, Lahore, in 1873. He also founded the weekly Punjabi newspaper Khalsa Akhbar and with it the Khalsa Press to expose the deviancy that Sikhi had endured. The price for his efforts towards freeing the Sikh Panth from the shackles of the hijackers was heavy indeed. His newspaper was shut down and he was excommunicated by the Akal Takht clergy in March of 1887, primarily for exposing the Farid Koti translation for what it was. This shameful act of excommunication proved 4 things. 1, that the hijackers were well entrenched. 2, that major Sikh institutions, including the Akal Takht, were sufficiently infiltrated by the hijackers. 3, that the battle to revert Sikhi to its original authentic form was not only long and arduous, but that opposition would come from within the Sikh masses itself. And 4, that decisions taken by the Akal Takht can be disgraceful, scandalous, and against Gurmat. Gyani Detta Singh was a historian, scholar, and a poet who wrote over 70 books on Sikhism to bring about awareness of the deviation and corruption that had rooted itself within the spirituality of Sikhi. Gyaniji took over the editorship of Khalsa Akhbar newspaper upon the excommunication of Professor Gurmukh Singh. Karm Singh, historian, exposed the hijacking of Guru Nanak's birth date from Vaisakh of 1469 to Katak di Purnamashi. He laid bare the fact that the hijacking of the date to mid-November was initiated by the Udasis, since Katak was actually the birth date of Sri Chand, but it was the Nirmalas who formalized the Katak date when they controlled Darbar Sahib during the reign of Nirmala Granthi Sant Singh. In the minds of the writers of the Janam Sakhis, Guru Nanak's Prakash could not be allowed to sit in Vaisakh because he was not a Brahmin, and the month of Vaisakh was reserved exclusively for Brahmin functions. In accordance to Brahminical beliefs, Katak di Purnamashi is the most inauspicious day of all, and that was a day that was fit for Guru Nanak as far as the hijackers were concerned. Karam Singh also exposed the lie of the non-existent Pai Bala of the Janam Sakhis. He writes, "The Pai Bala Janam Sakhi is a totally false, fraudulent book from start to finish. It's full of vilification of the Sikh Gurus through the creation of fake stories, concocted narratives, and totally unbelievable tales. This book should be buried miles deep, so deep that it is never found again." Karam Singh is of course referring to the Janam Sakhis painting Guru Nanak as a mystic, a miracle performer, a faith healer, a magician, a snake charmer, a recluse, an unproductive child, a neglecting father demanding blind faith of his followers, and so much more. According to the Janam Sakhis, snakes come over to shade him as he slept while his cows ate the fields of others. His father slaps him for wasting 20 rupees when rupees did not even exist in India. In the wink of an eye, he brings back to life the fields eaten by his cows. Elsewhere, he drowns in a river and comes back to life 3 days later. He brings dead people back to life and stops a mountain of a stone hurled at him with his palm. He flies over the mountains to meet yogis and Siddhs residing there. He orders his son to hang out clothes to dry in the middle of a winter night and tells his disciple Pai Lena to eat a corpse. This is the Guru Nanak of the Janam Sakhis. This is the Guru Nanak as presented to us by the hijackers of Sikhi through their distorted classical texts. The non-existent Guru Nanak, of course, but sadly, the Guru Nanak of 95% of Sikhs today. These 95% of Sikhs have never heard, let alone come to know the Guru Nanak who sits in the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji within his Bani. Bhai Khan Singh Nabha was a Sikh scholar and prolific writer who played a lead role in the Singh Sabha movement of Professor Gurmukh Singh and Gyani Detta Singh. In 1898, he published Hum Hindu Nahi, which set forth forcefully the Singh Sabha standpoint with regard to Sikh identity being totally independent of Vedic, Sanatan, Yogic, and Brahmanical influences. His most influential work is, however, the Mahan Kosh, a modern encyclopedia of Sikhism fashioned after encyclopedias published in the English language that he came across during his stay in England. His Mahan Kosh stands unrivaled in its standing and stature as a text of authentic Sikhi research. Sahib Singh, a professor of Sanskrit at the Khalsa College and later principal of Shaheed Missionary College and Gurmat College, opened the door towards reading Gurbani of Sanatan, Vedic, Yogic, and Brahmanical influences that the hijackers of Sikhi had injected into the Sikh psyche. In 1932, he authored a historic book titled Gurbani Vyakarana or Gurbani Grammar, bringing into light the undiscovered fact that Gurbani was composed in accordance with a grammar and syntax that allowed for its true meanings to be known. In 1965, he authored a 10-volume Punjabi translation of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji that relied on Gurbani grammar. It presented Sikhs with an alternative to the Nirmala authored Faridkoti translation. He faced tremendous opposition from the Nirmalas, Dera and Taksali sons and Babas who attempted to rubbish his basic claim that Gurbani had a grammar and syntax. The efforts of the pioneers and the Singh Sabha reform movement showed some results. The notable ones were the removal of statues and deities from the prisons of Darbar Sahib, the freeing of major gurdwaras from the Nirmalas and Mahants through the Gurdwara reform movement, the setting up of the SGPC in 1920 to manage historical and Sikh gurdwaras, the inauguration of the Akali Dal as a political party also in 1920 to champion Sikh rights, and the passing of the Sikh Gurdwara Act in 1925, which legally allowed the custody and control of historic Sikh Gurdwaras to pass from the Nirmalas and Mahants to the SGPC. It would not, however, take long for the Sikh community to realize that a good number of these initiatives would soon fail, primarily because most Sikh institutions fell back into the hands of the hijacker groups and their successors. The Nirmalas and Mahants vacated control of historical Gurdwaras to SGPC and moved over into existing Deras and Taksals or set up new ones. These Nirmalas and Mahants reinvented themselves as sons and babas. Some of them went to great lengths to fabricate fake lineages to the Gurus or prominent Sikhs, naming their Taksals after prominent Sikhs such as Baba Deep Singh, Bhai Mani Singh, and prominent places such as Damdama Sahib, to fool Sikhs into believing that these prominent Sikhs or even the 10th Guru himself were the founders of their outfits. In short, the Deras, Taksals, and their sons and Babas became the rebranded hijackers of Sikhi in the aftermath of the Singh Sabha-led reform initiatives. They would grow so phenomenally that Dera and Taksali Sikhs would reach critical mass in just one generation. Historian Dr. Harjinder Singh says there are more Deras than villages in Punjab. Such critical mass would allow hijacked Sikhs to take effective control of SGPC, the Takhats, Gurdwaras, Sikh institutions, and academia. In just one generation, up to 95% of Sikh clergy worldwide, Granthis, Ragis, Pracharaks, Kathakars, Tadis, etc., would have had their training at Deras and Taksals, An equally large portion of the management of Sikh institutions too would be those with Dera and Taksali inclinations. For all intents and purposes, then, Sikhi was headed back to its hijacked state. The Deras and Taksals had become the new hijackers, vitalized and emboldened by the support from the Sikh masses. The Sikh community was back in a state of slumber, fast asleep in the comfort that their spirituality was in the hands of our own hijackers. From the Sikh spirituality point of view, however, the efforts to create a uniform code of conduct, or what we call Maryada for Sikhs, of Sikh ceremonies and practices for Sikh institutions would stand out. The SGPC appointed a group of 28 eminent Sikhs in March of 1927 to undertake this task. A draft SRM was completed in 1936 and kept in storage for 8 years till 1944. Then, the Tarmak Advisory Committee, comprising of just 8 individuals, decided to make 17 changes in January of 1945. The final version was released in February of 1945. The process raised questions that raised even more questions. First, why was the draft kept in storage for this long? Second, and more importantly, what exactly was added or removed during these 8 years? Third, which persons had access to the document while it lay in storage during the 8 years? Fourth, why did these 8 individuals make 17 changes just prior to its final approval and release? Who were they and who authorized them to make the changes? Fifth, were these 17 the only changes made, or were there more alterations done during the 8 years that it lay in storage? Sixth, did the original group of 28 eminent Sikhs know and approve of the changes by the 8 persons? Principal Satbir Singh has said that the documentation pertaining to the SRM process was more than 1 ton in weight. Former SGPC President Gurcharan Singh Toda is on record for agreeing and adding that not a single sheet of the records remained after the June 1984 attack on the Darbar Sahib and Akal Takht by the Indian Army. The Sikh reference library where the material was kept was destroyed in the aftermath of the attack according to official versions. The 6 questions above will therefore remain unanswered and continue to raise more questions. It was clear that the hijackers of Sikhi had infiltrated the SRM process as well. The SRM initiative was born out of the Singh Sabha reform movement's efforts to cleanse Sikhi of the Brahmanical distortion and corruption that had been smuggled into our spirituality by the hijackers of Sikhi. The Singh Sabha was thus represented in the SRM drafting process in the likes of enlightened minds that was Bhai Khan Singh Nabha. He was supported by the highly principled Teja Singh, who was unequivocal in his demand for the total and complete exorcism of hijacker influence from the SRM. There was a fair number of intellectuals such as Professor Teja Singh, Professor Jodh Singh, Professor Harkrishan Singh and Professor Ganga Singh. But the Nirmala Dera Taksali groups had their members in as well, in the likes of Nirmala Bhai Veer Singh, Sant Man Singh, Nirmala Sant Sangar Singh, Sant Gulab Singh, Pandit Basant Singh, Pandit Kartar Singh, and Sant Rantir Singh. It's ironical that an endeavor aimed at removing Nirmala influence from Sikhi was participated in by Nirmalas and individuals with Nirmala mindsets. Even the anti-Sikh cult, the Shromani Radha Swami Mat Vicharak Sabha, had two members there. These are people who do not accept Bani or Shabad as Guru. What they were doing, deciding on a Maryada for the Sikh world, is baffling indeed. Given the interest of the colonial government in the affairs of Sikhs, there can be no denying that the British had a hand in the inclusion of some members into this committee. In the absence of records of the deliberations, one can only speculate as to the heated debates that may have gone on between the Nirmala, Dera and Taksaldi groups on the one hand and the Singh Sabha reformers on the other. What is clear, however, is that the resultant SRM is a compromise document. In order to come into existence, the only way out perhaps was to retain a certain amount of the Sanatan, Vedic, Yogic and Brahmanical distortions that the hijacker groups had smuggled into Sikhi for some 200 years. The hijackers of Sikhi thus managed to keep their foot firmly and squarely in the parameters of the SRM. Given the range and depth of their influence, they managed to circumvent a process that was originally aimed at doing just the reverse. The more obvious examples of the compromise within the SRM are as follows. 1. The insertion of two compositions, namely Jap and Savaiye, that are not contained within the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji as Nitnem Banis. 2. The dictate that three compositions, namely Jap, Savaiye and Chaupai, that are again not contained within the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, be recited during the preparation of the Khande Dipal. This effectively meant that the Khande Dipal was to be prepared by reciting a majority 3 out of 5 compositions that were not in the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. 3. The insertion of 24 paras of a composition titled Chaupai, 1 Savaiya and 1 Dohra, all of which are not contained within the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, their insertion into the Sodar Bani. 4. The insertion of the first body of Durga Ki War, Pratham Bhagavati Samarkya, a composition that is again not contained within the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, into the Ardas of the Sikhs. All the above are clearly a compromise between the positions of the Nirmala, Dera, Taksal, Sant and Baba groups who wanted the entire Bachitra Natak or the entire Dasam Granth to be accepted as the equivalent of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji and fit for Prakash side by side the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji versus the Singh Sabha who wanted the entire Granth completely removed from the Sikh psyche. So, while the SRM expressly prohibits the Prakash of DG beside the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, it accepted 3 compositions of Jap, Savaiye and Chaupai together with 1 Savaiya and 1 Dohra in Sodar Bani and the 1 para from Durga Ki War into a Vardas, all from DG. The SRM also omitted the singing of compositions from the DG as Kirtan. This, however, did not prevent nefarious attempts by certain elements within the current establishment of the SGPC to alter the stipulations. The method employed is to add stuff under the pretext of doing an English translation of the original SRM in Punjabi. For instance, the original Punjabi version says on page 15, Kirtan Gurbani ਨੂੰ ਰਾਗਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਚਾਰਨ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ. Translation: Kirtan is the singing of Gurbani in rags. But the official SGPC translation is Kirtan means singing and scriptural compositions in traditional music measures. Notice, Pyareo, that the word Gurbani is missing and removed from the translation and replaced with this phrase scriptural compositions. And the reason for that is plain. This nonsensical translation, scriptural compositions, whatever it means, is to justify the smuggling in of non-Gurbani compositions under the guise of Kirtan, which is what is happening in a vast majority of Gurdwaras today. This objective becomes clear in the equally disfigured translation of the next part. The next part says, ਸੰਗਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਕੇਵਲ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਜਾਂ ਇਸ ਦੀ ਵਿਆਖਿਆ ਸਰੂਪ ਰਚਨਾ ਭਾਈ ਗੁਰਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਤੇ ਭਾਈ ਨੰਦ ਲਾਲ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਦਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ. Translation: In the Sangat, Kirtan can only be of Gurbani or the explanatory writings of Bhai Gurdas and Bhai Nandalal. This is an exclusion clause. Since DG is not mentioned, its compositions are excluded from Kirtan. However, the translation which is published by the Dharm Prachar Committee of the SGPC translates this sentence as follows. In the congregation, Kirtan only of Gurbani, in brackets, Guru Granths or Guru Gobind Singh's hymns, close bracket, and its elaboration of the compositions of Bhai Gurdas and Bhai Nandalal may be performed. The words in the brackets, namely Guru Granths or Guru Gobind Singh's hymns, are not contained in the original Punjabi version and hence appears to be an obvious and devious plot to smuggle in something that was not there. It's a method that comes right out of the handbook of the hijackers of Sikhi. The SRM does not acknowledge that the three compositions of Jap, Savaiye, Chaupai, one Savaiya and one Dohra in Sodar, and the Ardas para from Durga Ki War are from DG. The words Dasam Granth do not appear even once in the entire SRM document. This is clearly an indication of a compromise, which is to accept the non-Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji compositions, but to not mention the name of the text where they came from. The SRM also does not acknowledge that the three compositions of Jap, Savaiye, Chaupai and the Ardas part are the compositions of Guru Gobind Singh. There is no acknowledgement of the authorship of these three compositions or their sources and origin in the SRM document. This again is a sign of a compromise, which again is to accept these non-Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji compositions, but to not acknowledge them as being composed by the 10th Guru. It need be stated that there are Sikhs who do not accept this compromise theory even in the least. Their alternative explanation is that all the non-Gurbani compositions in the SRM were added by people with such an agenda during the 8-year period that the document was kept in an unexplained storage. The premise is that this 8-year period was when these non-Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji compositions were smuggled into the SRM document. Some of the original committee members of the 28 experts have said that these non-Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji compositions were never agreed upon. For Sikhs who accept the compromise theory, the settlement that was reached is remarkable, but only in the sense that without the compromise, there would most likely have been no SRM to begin with. Yet, within the context of a spirituality that has been hijacked, distorted, corrupted, and diluted, the compromise is not without severe negative implications. First, the authority to decide what is Gurbani was a right that was within the sole domain and exclusive and unequivocal right of only our gurus. Second, the gurus did not pass down this authority to anyone, to any group, or to any institutions. The SGPC and Akal Takht, or even the Sikh Panth as a whole, has absolutely no authority to declare non-Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji poems or writings as Gurbani. But that is exactly the position of SRM today. A group of Sikhs decided that non-Gurbani compositions would be made into Gurbani. In all fairness, the SRM does not declare the three compositions of Jap, Savaiye and Chaupai and the one Ardas para as Gurbani per se, but by making these compositions as major part of the Sikh Nitnem, part of Sodar Bani, a major part of Khande Di Paul and part of Ardas, the SRM has created the impression that they are on par with Gurbani. The insertion of 24 paras of the poetry called Chaupai into Sodar Bani especially creates such an impression. Again, in fairness, the SRM did not insert the 24 paras of Chaupai into the Sodar Bani as contained within the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. The insertion is within the SRM and Gutkas. The truth, however, is that a vast majority of Sikhs today are unaware that Chaupai, Jap, Savaiye and the Ardas para are not from within the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Many Sikhs respond with absolute amazement and surprise when told that these compositions cannot be found within the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Despite it all, the SRM turned out to be a compromise that was stillborn. All the Nirmala, Dera, Taksali, Sant Baba groups openly declared the moment the SRM was launched that they will not abide by it. They have all continued to implement their own maryadas that propagate the hijacked version of Sikhi. The Singh Sabha, Sikh intellectuals and missionary pracharak groups accepted the SRM to bring about Panthic unity. Their acceptance was also on the premise that since the SRM had achieved some level of cleansing of Sanatan, Vedic, Yogic and Brahmanical influences, it will be revised by the Panth at some point down the line for further and complete cleansing. In their rejection of the SRM, the Dera, Taksali and Sant Samaj groups are also aiming for a revision and a rewrite of the document. Their method is, however, to infiltrate the SGPC and the Takhats with persons who are aligned completely and absolutely with their belief systems, which is hijacked Sikhi. This will ensure that if and when the SRM is revisited, redrawn, it will be in total and complete compliance with the Sanatan, Vedic, Yogic and Brahmanical beliefs of the hijackers of Sikhi. The reality is that the Dera and Taksali groups have reached such a goal of infiltration already. The Takhats have been fully infiltrated. None of the five follow the SRM. It's the height of irony that Jathedars of these Takhats, themselves violators of the SRM, sit in judgment of those who are alleged to have violated the SRM. These Jathedars frequently visit Dera and Taksali locations and occasions to be received as guests of honor and garlanded, and never have they even once reprimanded these Deras and Taksals for not following the SRM. The Singh Sabha, intellectuals and missionary pracharak groups thus fear that the achievements that were obtained through the SRM are in serious danger. These Sikhs have decided to pick up where the pioneers of the Singh Sabha movement left off. Many of them face daunting and unnerving challenges such as excommunication, violence, intimidation, and disruptions of their programs to prevent their messages from reaching the Sikhs in general. The next video, the final in this series, will provide a narrative of the enlightened Sikhs that have kept these reform attempts alive into the 21st century. Please continue to join me in this discovery of the Sikhi of Guru Nanak.